So good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm just setting the camera up. Part of the challenge with Facebook Live is with a phone, we have to start it in vertical or you're going to be watching me sideways the entire practice. So it's probably a bit loud at the moment as I adjust the camera for optimal viewing, but bear with me and we'll start momentarily. Beautiful. Thanks for joining. Great. Nice to see everyone. Good. So, took some feedback from last week's class, a little bit of brightness behind me last week, so I changed my orientation. And hopefully the sound will be sufficient. Wanted to go out and get a microphone to hook up for this, but of course, avoiding going out. So I'll make sure to project my voice. So we're going to start with an opening meditation, just to come to a comfortable seat, whether you want to sit in Shavasana, seated easy pose with the legs crossed. Perhaps you want to sit in Thunderbolts or Hero's pose, where you're sitting the buttocks on the ankles with bent knees, and feel free as well to take the legs out in front of you. And throughout the several minutes of having an internal introspective meditation, feel free to adjust your position. It's really important to find a sense of ease and comfort. If you find you're feeling excess discomfort in a joint, then just change. I know in certain traditions, holding a position is key, but in the lineages I've been trained in, it's really about a sense of ease and comfort, echoing Patanjali's comment that the pose is sweet and steady, a sense of ease and freedom. So as you find your comfortable seat, however you choose to sit, see if you're free to lie down as well. That's certainly an option for an opening meditation by all means. So feel a sense of weight, feel grounded and rooting, a connection in your seat. At the same time, you feel a beautiful lift through the spinal column. Keep the chin parallel with the floor. Imagine you had a string coming up the crown of the head that was gently lifting upward toward the heavens. Allow the shoulders to relax. The hands can rest in the lap, however they fall, perhaps palms down. If you're feeling you're needing more inward connection, you can always rest the palms facing upward, which allows a sense of energy to flow. So I'm going to invite you to bring the awareness inward, closing the eyes, if that's comfortable for you. For some, closing the eyes causes some discomfort or distress. So if that's true for you, just have a soft, gentle gaze on your mat, about a foot or a foot and a half in front of your seat. Bring the awareness to the breath. Although most of our classes are based on modern postural yoga, often the acronym MPY, it really incorporates the 8 limbs of classical yoga, Ashtanga yoga, as codified by Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras. And I wanted to speak a little bit about those. For those of you who attend my classes regularly at the various locations I offer on the Sunshine Coast, you'll have heard me speak about a few of them, which we really incorporate in a regular modern postural yoga class. This inward turning of the senses by closing the eyes and being aware of sensation in the body is pratyahara, one of the 8 limbs of classical yoga. Of course, our physical practice, asana, our poses, is one of the limbs. We also will do some work with pranayama, or vital life force, and that's might be thought of as breath work. If you practice in other modalities, such as Tai Chi or Qigong, you might know this as Qi or Qi. There's similar crossover between different traditions. So that's that vital life force energy. But I wanted as well to introduce elements that aren't typically included in a modern postural yoga class. The first 2 of the Yoga Sutras are the yams and the yans. Sort of think of them as being our ethics that guide us as individuals. There's 5 of each of them. Often we hear about ahimsa, one of the yams, about non-harm. But there's an opportunity in this special day and age where we're in a very unique situation. Most of us are having to remain inside. We're feeling quite vulnerable, perhaps. Perhaps feeling like there's no sense of control in our life. Allow whatever sensation is arising. And recognizing that there really isn't anything we can do to change what's going on out there without changing what's happening inwardly. We all know the famous saying, be the change you want to see in the world. It starts within. Some of the niyams, for example, is tapas, the sense of discipline, but also a sacrifice for others. And I know that the word sacrifice in our modern day and age can have, to some people, a negative connotation, but perhaps reframing it and thinking of it as being of service. And I know many of us are called to, at this time, to do what we can to help. Throughout the world, there's many Flatten the Curve groups that offer to assist to go shopping for those who are more vulnerable, for the elderly. So there's many opportunities for us to be of service, and it doesn't necessarily mean going out. Reaching out to friends via video, text, phone call, to offer support and be of service. So it's really an opportunity to include the yams and the yams in our modern postural yoga class. So bring the awareness to the breath now, particularly just observe the breath as it's entering and exiting the lungs. About a year ago, via Skype, I was in a darshan with my teacher's teacher, who stated something that is so obvious, we all know this, but it bears repeating as a reminder to reinforce for us, always anchoring in the present moment. He said, we cannot breathe in the past, and we cannot breathe in the future. Of course we know this. The only moment we can breathe is right now. So bringing the awareness to the breath is an opportunity to instantly anchor us in to the present moment. To go inward, feel awareness, feel sensation, allow whatever emotions may arise, whatever struggles, fears. Breathe into that. Continue to keep rooting through your sits bones. Continue to keep feeling the lift and elongation of the spinal column. feeling a sense of ease in the body and in the mind. When we recognize there's not much we can do to deal with situations in the future, there is an unknown. That can, for some people, cause distress or fear. Bring the awareness back to the present moment. There's a sense of peace and stillness in focusing on the breath, in focusing on the pause that occurs between the inhale and exhale, and also between the exhale and inhale. I'd like to invite you to bring your palms, pressing gently together. Let's bring the thumbs toward heart center. This hand gesture known as Anjali Mudra, in many faith-based traditions, simply known as prayer hands. We hold the hands at the altar of the heart. While modern science tells us that all emotion occurs in the brain, it is not coincidental that virtually every culture throughout history associates the heart with the feeling center, with our capacity for love, caring, compassion. Focus the awareness on the fullness of the heart. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. So we're going to do a little bit of pranayama here. So normally speaking, the pranayama breathwork exercise I lead us through heart third eye opener. We normally take the back of the hands to the third eye. So just in the current day, the practice of avoiding touching the face, I'm going to suggest we just take the back of the palms a few inches in front of the third eye. The purpose of this breathwork exercise, besides moving vital life force, is really to start warming up and lubricating the shoulder joint. And so having a look here forward momentarily, I'll show us, and then you're free to close your eyes through this practice if it helps to bring the awareness and grounding inward. We're going to start with the hands resting over one another on the heart center. On the inhale, we're going to rotate the shoulders. The back of the palms come toward the third eye. Hold them a few inches away now. Continuing on the inhale, straightening the arms up overhead. Reach and extend. And then rotating at the shoulders, palms facing out. Extend the fingertips out to the side as you bring the hands back up to heart center. So again, inhale, breathe the arms overhead, rotate the shoulders, back of the palms near the forehead, extend the arms upward, reach the fingertips out to the side on the exhale, bringing them back down and around. We're going to continue several cycles with the rhythm of the breath. On the inhale, palms reversing and extending the arms. Exhale, reach and bringing the arms back down toward the ground and then up to heart center. Several more cycles here. Feel free again to close the eyes and flow with the rhythm of your breath. Inhale the arms up overhead. Exhale them down to the side and back to the heart. Keep going. 4 more cycles. 2 more. And this time, as you allow the palms to come down to the thighs, just resting the palm on the thighs, we're going to start making some small circular movements here. Just starting to warm up and lubricate the spinal column, our pelvis, and our hips. You really start to notice the movement of the leg bones and the hips as you make these small circular motions in one direction to begin with. It might feel nice to keep the eyes closed and to focus inward. Be aware of the breath. Feel how it expands the barrel of the chest outward. And now we'll start moving in the opposite direction, small circular movements to begin with. We're going to increase the size of these motions temporarily, but to start with just simple, gentle, circular movement. A couple more to even out the sides. And then now, let's start going in the original direction. But you can start bringing some more movement in if it feels appropriate. You can press through the palms, bring the shoulders into it, perhaps the hands coming into it. Really making larger circles here. Keep rooting through the sits bones. Lead with the sternum as you come forward. And then opposite direction with those larger circles. Of course, you're free to keep the smaller ones like we had before, and this goes to say with each aspect of our physical practice to honor your body. So we'll come back to neutral. So just a quick reminder, yoga is an individual practice. I'm going to offer a sequence to follow along with. Feel free to modify as appropriate for you today, which might be different than yesterday and tomorrow. Particularly in this day, it's important that we're moving our body. Many of us feel housebound if you're not getting out a lot. We want to move our body, but we want to be cautious not to push ourselves too far beyond our edge. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and come on to hands and knees. If you've been sitting on a block or bolster, you're going to move that out of the way at this point. As we come to tabletop position on hands and knees, ensure the shoulders are directly over the wrists, the hips directly over the knees. We'll spread the fingertips very wide, press through all 5 fingertips. Also feel that you're slightly pulling the fingertips back in the direction of the wrist. This just gives a little bit further engagement and maybe a slight lift in the knuckle, protects collapsing into the wrist crease. Feel that firmness rooting down and lift out of the hands. Now we're going to take a slight external rotation of the humerus. So you notice the arm bone turning outward. You could also hear this described as the elbow pit starts to turn more forward than inward. So important in our arm balancing poses to protect the shoulder girdle, allowing us to maintain a straight arm. We'll move through some cat and cow poses now. So as you exhale, you want to rock the pelvis in as you arch the back and tuck the chin. Lift out of the palms. Inhale, soften the belly, chin off the chest, crown of the head goes up toward the ceiling. Cow pose. Exhale again, coming to cat pose, like a hissing Halloween cat with an arched back. Tuck the chin. Inhale, coming toward cow. Exhale, cat pose. Inhale, cow. This is also known as upward cat or cat lift, depending on the traditions you may have studied in before. So just keep flowing now with the rhythm of the breath and feeling the movement in the spinal column here. Feeling the breath moving through the body. So we're going to come back to a neutral tabletop position. We'll come toward child's pose. Either sink the buttocks back toward the heels. The knees can either be together or take them to the outside edges of the mat. Lower the forehead down to the mat. If child's pose is not available to you, if there's sensation in the knees that doesn't allow it, you can come to alternate resting pose. Keep the hip directly above the knee, lowering the forearms down and resting the forehead on the mat. In either of those positions, if your forehead doesn't reach the mat, see if you can stack the forehead on, or rest the forehead on stacked palms or fists. We really want to allow the opportunity of rest here, and at the back of the neck, the muscles are activated here. It's still activating the parasympathetic nervous system, and we're looking to move to the sympathetic rest and digest in our resting child's pose. Beautiful. Let's come back up to tabletop position. We're going to take our right leg out behind us. Keep the hips squared off in parallel. Activate the leg. Hug the muscles to the bone. Dorsiflexion, the foot facing down toward the ground. The crown of the head is still reaching forward. Feel as if you're trying to step the heel, the sole of the foot onto the wall behind you. See if you now, keeping the hips parallel, lift the heel a little higher up toward the ceiling. Really activating the hip flexor muscles. And then bring it back to neutral. Let's go ahead and lower the right knee down. We'll repeat this on the left-hand side as you take the leg out behind you. Engage the muscles, hugging them tight to the bone. Dorsiflexion in the foot. Crown of the head reaches forward. Sole of the foot to the wall behind you. Hips are parallel and squared off. And once again, see, with the hips parallel, if you can raise the heel a little bit higher toward the ceiling. Beautiful, bring it back to neutral. Let's go ahead and lower the left knee. We're going to raise the right leg out again behind us. Take the left hand forward on the mat. It might come off of the front of the mat, tented fingers. With deep core engagement here, there's an option to raise that left arm off the ground, turn the palm to face inward. Sunbird. Reach the fingertips forward, crown of the head forward, sole of the foot back to the wall behind you. And we'll lower the left hand and the right leg. We'll take the left leg out behind us, square off the hips, engage the leg, and then again walk the opposite hand forward. This time the right hand comes forward either at the front of the mat or just off the mat, ahead of the mat. Tented fingers. Option to keep the hand resting there, but you can certainly raise the arm. Ensure you've really engaged the deep core abdominal muscles. Superficially, we often hear this described as pulling the belly button toward the back spine, but it's so much deeper than this. In the transverse abdominis, engage that core. Lower the right hand down and the left knee. We're going to lift the right leg out again behind us. This time either taking the hand forward on tented fingers or out in front of us. Similar to our cat and cow again, now we're going to have some cat crunches. On the exhale, we arch the back, bring the elbow and knee together underneath the stomach as you tuck the chin. Take the leg out behind you and the arm forward on the inhale. Exhale again, cat crunch. Inhale, take the limbs out in opposite direction. See if you can lift the heel higher to the ceiling. Exhale again, bring the elbow knee together. If you've rested the fingertip in front of you, just hold the hand there as you arch the back and bring the knee under the chest. That modification is certainly an option. Couple more cycles. And pausing here with the limbs in opposite direction. Lower the left hand down with the right leg still raised. Take the right leg across the midline of the body, off the left-hand side of your mat. The toes are tucked and they reach the ground. I'm just going to position here for better optical if you need to see. Toes are tucked. And then gazing over the left shoulder. You can either hold here for a few breaths, or there's an option to bring the knee in behind the opposite one and sink the buttocks back toward the heels. You're sinking back, come up to the touch toes, raise the leg up, bring it back to center, and the head back to center. We'll repeat this on the opposite side. Now we're going to go ahead and take the right leg out behind us. Pardon me. Left leg out behind us. Reach and extend. Take the right arm out in front of you, 10 fingers, or raise it off the ground. Reach the fingertips forward. Reach the sole of the foot to the wall behind you. Long line through the whole body. And some cat crunches here. As you exhale, bring the elbow and knee together. Arch the back and tuck the chin. Inhale, stretch the limbs out in opposite direction. Keep flowing with the rhythm of your breath, several cycles. Three more. And following the final one, take the limbs in opposite direction, lowering the right hand down to the ground, reach and extend the left leg behind you, then take it across midline of the body off the right hand side of the mat with the toes tucked and they're on the ground now, gazing over the right shoulder. Option to hold here a few breaths or bring that left knee in behind the right one and sink the buttocks back to the heels. Being very cautious with the hamstrings here, it might really fire up the back of the legs, so feel free just to keep that leg straight. If you've taken the knee behind the other one, lift back up, take the leg out behind you, bring the head back to center, raise the leg, and bring it out behind you and lower it down. We'll take child's pose for a few breaths here. So go ahead and sink back, child's pose or alternate resting pose. Again, allowing the forehead to relax. So as we come out of child's pose, back up to a tabletop position, preparing to come toward down dog here. So press through the palms, external rotation in the humerus, tuck the toes, knees bent, lift the hips back and up. So think about lifting them further back. So this one's going back, pelvis, lifting high, sacrum back, lift out of the arms. Walk the dog now. You can pedal out the dog. So as you drop one heel, you bend the opposite knee and move to the other side. So again, bending the knee and drop the opposite heel. Just moving slowly here. Notice as you drop one heel, you press more into the opposing palm. Now remember, you're in the driver's seat. You can come down to child's pose and rest whenever you're called to. We'll go ahead and raise the right leg out behind us. Three-legged dog. Reach and extend it. See if you can lift the heel a little higher up to the ceiling as you keep the hips squared off and parallel. And bending the knee, we're going to come forward to a three-legged plank position, keeping the knee tight up under the chest. And stretch back, three-legged dog. Coming forward now as you take the leg to the outside of the right hand. Stretch back to three-legged dog. And across midline to the outside of the left hand. And stretch back to three-legged dog. Go ahead and lower the right leg down. We'll repeat on the opposite side. Taking the left leg out behind you. Reach and extend it up to the ceiling. Lift the heel slightly higher. Keep the hips squared off and parallel. 3 times the three-legged plank as you bring the knee forward. Shoulders come directly over the wrists. Stretch back, three-legged dog. This time come to the outside of the left foot palm. Go back to three-legged dog. As you come forward this time across midline outside of the right palm. And back to three-legged dog. Lower the leg down and drop down to the knees. Child's pose. Taking a rest for just a few breaths. And coming out of child's pose, we're going to come back to downward dog again. So pressing through the palms, tuck the toes, bend the knees, lift the hips back. Again, we're going to raise the right leg out behind us, reach and extend. This time as you bring it underneath the chest, plant the sole of the right foot by the right thumb mound. Finding a high runner's lunge here. Right knee directly over the right ankle. Make sure your shin bone perpendicular to the ground. The back toes are tucked. Lift that back shin high off the ground. Crown of the head extends forward. Feel that elongation through the spinal column. And then we'll all go ahead and drop the left knee. And inhale the arms either up to the thigh or right overhead, arms alongside the ears. Reach and extend the fingertips up toward the ceiling. So with the right knee out in front of you, we're going to come toward a revolved twist. You would bring the left palm to the right thigh, let the right hand come to the small of the back, rotate the torso, gaze over the right shoulder. As you bring the torso back to center, we'll go ahead and plant the palms, tuck the left toes, take the right leg back to meet the left, high plank position, one long line from the crown of the head down to the ankles. Hold here, squeeze the adductor muscles inward. Modification is to drop the knees, don't sag in the arms. Keep active, engaged arms and lifting out of the palms. Press back to down dog. We'll go ahead and move to the opposite side. Raise the left leg out behind you. Lift it high. Heel higher. Keep the hips parallel. Bend the knee, plant it by the left thumb mound. High runner's lunge. Square off the hips. Knee directly over the ankle. Root through the four corners of the forward foot. Big toe mound, little toe mound inside and outside edges of the heel. Crown of the head reaches forward. Elongate the spine. Lift the right shin high off the ground. We'll go ahead and drop the right knee. And as we inhale ourselves up, either bring the hands to the thigh or up alongside the ears. Reach and extend the fingertips up if they're overhead. And we'll come to a revolved twist. We bring the right palm to the outside of the left thigh. Left hand close into the spine, low of the back. Gaze over the left shoulder. Turning the torso toward the wall on your left. And we'll bring the torso back to center. Let's go ahead and plant the palms, tuck the right toes, take the left leg back to meet the right. High plank position, or modified by dropping the knees. Lift out of the palms. Squeeze the adductors in. Imagine you had a block between your legs that you were trying to squeeze. And let's go ahead and drop the knees, sink back to child's pose for a couple of breaths. Forehead down to the mat, 4 breaths. And as we come out of child's pose, coming back to down dog, press through the palms, take the hips back and up. So we're either going to walk the feet forward or hop to the front of the mat, coming into a hanging forward fold. You can keep a bend in the knees, feel the belly resting against the thighs, let the head hang heavy. Allow the muscles in the back of the neck to relax as you let the spine fill forward. You can grab opposite elbow and opposite palm. So either just remaining stationary here or slightly revolving the torso one foot at a time. The heel might lift of the opposite side that you're turning the torso. Again, allowing the head and neck to hang heavy. As you come back to center, let the fingertips drape down toward the toes. We'll ragdoll the spine upward here. So you really want to make sure you bend the knees deeply. Keep the chin tucked to the chest. Root through the feet as you press and start rising to standing. Let the arms hang heavy like empty coat sleeves. Unfurling the vertebra one at a time as you rise up towards standing. And moving to the front of the mat, mountain pose here. Root down through the four corners of each foot. Feel an activation in the legs, hugging the muscles to the bone. Feel a lift through the spinal column. Keep the chin parallel to the floor. The imaginary string pulling the crown of the head up toward the ceiling. And you can actually open the front side of the chest now by externally rotating the arms. Notice the turn in the shoulder socket here. Palms face forward. A broadness through the front of the chest. Scapula. I want to just make a mention regarding... Oh, I think we did have a pause here. There we go. Sorry about the hiccup with the camera there. Hopefully it's all running fine now. I did want to make a mention, when we come to our sun salutations, we're going to be incorporating that twist we just had, and I want to give the variations now for it. So when we were in our twist, we were just bringing the palm across the thigh, the other to the small of the back. There will be an option to come to a revolved prayer twist, bringing the elbow to the outside of the thigh, palms pressed together. Ensure your torso is turned. And if you're really looking for a more fiery, activated practice, you would take the back leg and raise it off the ground. So there's variations and modifications that you're free to adjust as appropriate for you today. So from our standing pose at the front of the mat in mountain, we're going to move towards some sun salutation series A, Surya Namaskar. Inhale the arms around overhead. As we come toward a swan dive, you can bend the knees to protect the low back and hamstrings if needed. Bring the fingertips in the direction of the toes. We're going to inhale the spine to be straight. The palms might come up the shins. Halfway lift, or diver's pose, it's also known as. Exhale, plant the palms. We're going to take the right leg back behind us. High runner's lunge. And then inhale the arms alongside the ears. Remember, you have the option to drop that back knee. And now we'll come to our twists. Again, either hand to the thigh and small of the back, or revolved prayer twist. Again, feeling a long line through the body, crown of the head reaches forward. Bringing the hands back to heart center. We'll go ahead and plant the palms. We're going to take the left leg back behind us, high plank position for 2 breaths. Again, modify by dropping the knees. Don't allow the torso to sag. And press back to down dog. We're going to raise the right leg up behind us. And bend the knee, plant the right foot by the right thumb mound.
Long line through the whole body. Option to drop the knee or just inhale the arms overhead. And we'll repeat prayer twist on the opposite side, or hands to the thigh and small of the back. Reach the crown forward. Revolve the torso. Hands come back to heart center. Lower the palms. Take plank for 2 breaths. And pressing back to down dog. Either walk forward or hop to hanging forward fold. For reverse swan dive, bend the knees, sink the buttocks, circle the arms, rise to stand, arms overhead, and down to heart center. So Samastatihi with hands at Anjali Mudra. Second half of the pose. Option to bring the arms alongside the legs. Turn the attention inward. Connect with sensation. Connect with the breath. Notice that quietude in between the inhale and exhale, and the opposite end of the cycle. When you're ready, we'll open our eyes. We're going to move to the opposite side. So I'm just switching sides of my mat for visuals if anyone does need to follow along visually. We're going to start by coming down, hands in front of the toes. And then reverse swan dive to rise to stand. Circle the arms around, bringing them up overhead. And hands to heart center. Now we'll take a sun salutation, circle the arms around. Coming through swan dive here. Fingertips in front of the toes and inhale for halfway lift. Have a straight spine. Exhale, plant the palms. We're going to take the left leg back behind us. High runner's lunge. Remember your option to drop that back knee, otherwise inhale the arms alongside the ears. And coming into our revolved twist. You can come to prayer twist, bring the left elbow to the outside of the right leg. Press the palms together, right elbow goes up to the ceiling. Turn the torso, crown of the head forward. Bring the hands back to heart center. Plant the palms, right leg back to meet the left. High plank position, 2 breaths. Press back to down dog. Raise the left leg up behind you. Reach and extend. Lift the heel higher. Bend the knee. Plant it by the left thumb mound. Inhale the arms overhead. And revolved twist on this side. Lift high on the tiptoes, crown of the head reaches forward. Bring the hands back to heart center. Go ahead and drop the palms. Take the left leg back to meet the right. High plank position, 2 breaths. Press back to down dog. And coming forward, walk or hop to the front of the mat, hanging forward fold. Reverse swan dive, sink the buttocks back, bend the knees, circle the arms, rise to stand, hands overhead, and bring the hands to heart center. We'll take a pause here again, second half of the pose. Feel awareness in the body, connecting with the breath. connecting with the state of the mind. So I'm going to give everyone an opportunity to grab some sort of strap. We want something about 3.5, 4 feet long at least. So if you don't have a yoga strap, it could be a bathrobe tie or even a necktie or something. So maybe just take 30 seconds to go grab a rope, a yoga strap, a tie, or bathrobe tie. Beautiful. So we're going to take an opportunity to have a standing balance pose. These are unusual circumstances. I'm accustomed to teaching in class where I can go around and modify or adjust or make recommendations. Of course, I'm not able to see any of you. So we'll take one of the more rudimentary versions of a standing pose, Shavasana, tree pose. We really want to encourage the activation of the leg muscles of the standing leg and rooting through the four corners of the feet. However, in this pose, the toes are providing some stabilization. So the toe pads themselves are also connecting, but make sure that the weight doesn't come off the heel. Root down through the four corners of your right foot, come onto the tiptoes of the left foot, and open it out to the side. Openness in the hips, sort of toward a 90-degree angle. And keep that engagement in the standing leg here. Now there's an option here to raise the sole of the foot to different variations of the pose. The one level is with the sole of the foot on the calf. There is another option where the sole of the foot comes onto the inner thigh. We want to make sure that it doesn't come right onto the knee itself. There's too much potential for torque in the knee and injury. And there is an option, if you practice half lotus in seated, you could come to half lotus here. The knee has to be below the hip. If you're not accustomed to practicing this, I would recommend having the sole of the foot on the leg, or just keep the toes on the ground and press the heel into the leg. If the foot is on the leg, you press the foot into the leg and the leg back into the foot. Feel a sense of adduction of the inner muscles here, activating the hip flexors here. The hands might rise up to Anjali Mudra, or perhaps you bring them up alongside the ears, or even interlaced into temple. If you take temple, you interlace the fingers, pointer finger going directly up, but you want to have a straight arm here. So in temple, it's really important that we not have a bend, and there's slight inward rotation. Finding a non-moving focal point, your drishti gaze. Again, feeling awareness and sensation. Feel the breath as it fills and expands the lungs and rib cage. There's a sense of calmness in the present moment. Always an opportunity, an invitation to come back to the breath at any point in your day. At any time that you're seeing news stories that might be causing some degree of distress. Allowing the hands to come down. Go ahead and release the leg, and you can move in any way that brings a sense of comfort and relief, maybe shaking the legs out a little bit. Before we move to the opposite side, you root down through the left foot, Again, activate the muscles, hug the muscles to the bone. Tiptoes of the right foot. Now open the hip out to the side. Variation that feels appropriate for you, whether the sole's on the calf or the thigh or half lotus. Again, feel that adduction inward, squeezing inward here and activating the hip flexors. A little bit of activation in the gluteals. We're not clenching the gluteal muscles. They're naturally activated when adduction is fired up. Hands will land where they are called to. It's really vital for our well-being, our bone density, our muscles, our joints, to have some of these weight-bearing poses. For those of you that come regularly in my classes, you know I like to bring in scientific reports that show weight-bearing is so integral to bone density. So we're doing our self weight-bearing currently on the left leg. The activation of squeezing, hugging the muscles to the bone. Allowing the hands to relax. Release the leg. Again, go ahead and shake it out any way that feels good. So we're going to come to chair pose, a little activation in the quadriceps here. So multiple ways of doing chair pose. I'm going to recommend that we keep a neutrality in the spine. There's natural curves in the spine, of course, the two kyphotic and lordotic curves, but we want a neutrality. So we're trying to prevent this sort of curve or arching of the spine. Keep a neutral spine here. The feet can be hip width apart. If you have a traditional practice where you bring them together, feel free to do so. This is about your practice, so change and modify as feels right for you. So regardless of where you keep your feet, we're going to start to take the hips backwards, sinking the sits bones backwards, bending the knees. Inhale the arms out in front of us at shoulder height. So for the optimal support of our joints and skeletal structure, you want to ensure you can see your toes. Have a quick glance down. If you can't see your toes, if your knees are including your toes, you're putting undue strain on the joints. So take the hips backward. If that's too much sensation, you can rise up a little bit, but still ensure you're seeing your toes. Option to turn the palms to face inward and raise the arms alongside the ears. Again, keeping that neutrality in the spine so the crown of the head is going straight up, the sits bones going straight back. Rooting through the four corners of your feet. Finding a sense of steadiness in the mind. Breathe. You might notice your edge start to fire up here. See if you can breathe into that. If you get past the point of your edge and it's too much, then you can back up. You can come higher. If you're really not feeling any sensation, feel free to sink down a little lower. To exit, we're going to root through the feet, rise up to standing, bring the hands to heart center, and breathe sensation into the thighs. And we're going to move down toward seated. I recognize time constraints in a 75-minute class, so we're just going to move down toward our warm down as we have about 20 minutes left. So come down to a comfortable seat here. So if you're one of the individuals like myself and you have really tight hamstring muscles, you might like to raise the hips a little higher up, maybe sitting on a block or bolster or a folded blanket. Walk the flesh, irrespective of if you're on a block or just sitting flat on the mat, walk the flesh off the sits bones, really make firm connection with those ischial tuberosities here. We're going to activate the legs again. Hug the muscles to the bone, dorsiflexion in the feet. Your strap, if you grab that now, nearby. We're going to bend the knees temporarily to bring the strap around just below the toe mound and above the arch. the elbows bent, sort of a 90-degree angle. We're going to, again, straighten the legs out in front of us, activate them. You can start to eat up some of the belt, either walking the hands forward, keeping that bend in the elbows, and then hinging at the hip crease. Lead with the sternum to come forward, slowly. You really notice some activation in the back of the legs here, so pause and breathe into that. This isn't about getting the chest onto the thighs. It's about lifting the torso out of the pelvis. There are other poses we do where we look toward getting the chest further down. Right now we're lifting. As one of my teachers reminds me that these should be really ideally called forward extension rather than forward fold, as we're extending the spinal column. Breathe into the back of the legs. As you breathe, you might notice you can come slightly further forward. Beautiful. As you start to release the strap, coming back upright. Okay, we're going to come down toward our back. You probably notice my little monkey here. Okay, so if you're sitting on a block ball, he wants to play with the strap. Okay, come down onto your back. The knees are bent, soles of the feet flat on the ground. Keep your strap handy. We're going to be utilizing it here. We're going to take the right leg up, the sole of the foot off the floor. Bring the strap around the right leg. And we're going to straighten the right leg up toward the ceiling. Keeping the foot neutral and parallel up toward the ceiling, one side of the strap in each hand, activating the leg, micro bend in the knee. We don't want to lock out the joint here. Feel as if you're trying to step the sole of the foot to the ceiling. At the same time, you're gently pulling the leg bone, the femur back into the ball and socket joint into the hip socket. You can start to take the leg in the direction of the wall behind you. Notice really activating the back of the leg. If it's too much sensation, you can bend the knee. There is an option here. If you have the space, you can straighten the left leg if you've got tight hip flexors or tight hamstrings. You'll probably want to keep the sole of the left foot on the ground at this point. Bring the leg back to neutral, 90-degree angle, perpendicular from the body. Now you can straighten the left leg if you haven't done so yet. We're going to keep the strap on the right foot and swap both sides of the strap into the right hand and start to open the right leg out to the right side. If you take the left arm away from the body in the T formation. Keep the left shoulder glued to the ground. As you open the right leg out to the right side, you can either rest on the back of the skull, look up to the ceiling, or turn the gaze over the left hand. Since we're in a supine version of Padangusthasana, you can relax the left leg, but if you want to activate it temporarily, you can imagine you're standing on it, and we're doing this in standing form. This is a supine, reclined version of a standing pose. If you're looking over the left shoulder, bring the head back in alignment to the spine before beginning to raise the leg back up to center. You keep the strap on the right foot, but swap it to the left hand. Take the right arm out in a T formation. Bring the right leg across the center of the body. Start to lower it off the left-hand side of the mat. Keep the right shoulder glued to the mat. And the gaze might go over the right shoulder. Supta Parjita Trikonasana, reclined, revolved, triangle pose. Bring the head back to center. Raising the right leg up toward midline. Take the strap, one hand on each side. Elongate, stretch the leg outward as you slowly lower it down toward the ground. Release the strap, bend both knees, bring the soles of the feet flat to the ground again. Taking the sole of the left foot off the ground, bring the strap around the toe mound again. Right sole of the foot flat on the ground to begin with. Dorsiflexion of the foot, toes pointing down toward the head. Sole reaching up to the ceiling, straight leg with a micro bend in the knee. Option now to bring the foot toward the wall behind you. If there's too much sensation, bend the left knee. Option to straighten the right leg. Not recommended for those with tight hamstrings. And then we'll bring the left leg back to neutral. With the strap still on the left foot, we're going to take both sides of the strap into the left hand. Straighten the right leg out if you haven't done so yet. Take the right arm out in a T formation away from the body. And start to open the left leg out to the left hand side. Perhaps turn the gaze over the right shoulder. Again, you can relax the right leg now. Or just temporarily activate it and imagine you're doing this in standing. So you're feeling a whole long line through the body, through the crown of the head, reaching to the wall behind you, the sole of the foot reaching forward. You can relax the leg now. Breathe into any sensation that arises. Maybe you're feeling in the back of the leg, maybe in the hip. Bring the head back to neutral and center. Raising the leg up, so the strap is on the left leg. Swap the strap to the right hand as it stays on the left foot. Take the left arm out in a T formation. Keep the left shoulder glued to the mat as you bring the left leg across the midline off the right hand side of the mat. Revolved, reclined, triangle. The gaze may go over the left shoulder, or perhaps you just rest it on the back of the skull and look up to the ceiling. Once again, bring the head back to center first. Then raise the left leg up. And bring one side of the strap in each hand as you elongate and reach and extend the leg as you slowly lower it down toward the ground. And once it reaches the ground, go ahead and release the strap. So we're going to prepare for a minor inversion, bridge pose here. If you actually have different inversion practice that you prefer to take, whether wheel or plow or shoulder stand, you're free to do so. Otherwise, keeping the feet hip width apart and the feet perpendicular, pointing directly forward and heels pointing directly forward. Make sure they're neither turned in nor out. Soles of the feet flat on the ground. We're going to rock the pelvis toward the direction of the wall behind the head. So you notice that the low back comes fully flush and spread. Bring the arms alongside the body, palms are facing down, and fingertips are reaching in the direction of the heels. There is a tiny amount of pressure on the back of the neck here, so it's important that once you go up into bridge, you don't move your head to the side at all. As you root through the feet and the upper back and shoulders, we're going to begin to peel the hips and buttocks off the mat and lift the hips up toward the ceiling. At the same time that you take them toward the wall in front of the knees. So notice an opening in the front side of the body, elongation and softness. Lift the hips higher still. If you're accustomed to Yoga Mudra in this position, you can roll onto the shoulder heads, bringing the hands underneath the spine and interlace the fingers. Just an option if that's part of your normal practice. If you're not accustomed to that, a nice variation to transition toward that. Bend the arms at 90-degree angle, rest the palms underneath the waist, and lift the hips higher. This allows the weight to come off the shoulders a bit so you can roll onto the shoulder head. That's stage one transition toward Yoga Mudra. Squeeze the adductor muscles inward. Imagine you had a block in between your legs that you were squeezing. The gluteals are activated here, but we're not clenching them. If you've interlaced into Yoga Mudra, go ahead and release that. Roll off the shoulder heads, slowly lowering the vertebra one at a time to bring the hips and buttocks back down toward the ground. We'll take the knees to the outside edges of the mat and arms out, T formation. Just slowly windshield wiper the legs. As you drop the knees to one side, gaze over the opposite shoulder. Bringing the knees back up through center and to the opposite side. Again, turning the gaze over the other shoulder. And just a few times here, really beautiful opening for the hips. Excellent. So we're going to come toward goddess pose here. So bring the soles of the feet together and let the knees splay out to the side. The closer the heels come toward the perineum, the more sensation in the groin. So if it's too much, you can walk the feet further away, the soles of the heels further away from the perineum. The arms might just be resting alongside the body, or perhaps bending at the elbow and rest the palms on the belly. And just rest into this position, really starting to activate that parasympathetic nervous system here. Focusing again, the awareness on the breath, the awareness on the state of the mind. We're going to hold this for about another 30 seconds. If you find there's too much sensation in your hips, you can bring the knees together and then take the soles of the feet to the outside edges of the mat with the knees falling inward here. It's just a little bit of a counter movement for the hips. And holding either one of those for just another 15 seconds. And when you're ready, we're going to transition towards Shavasana. So you might want to grab an article of clothing so that you can stay warm and not feel a draft. Maybe some socks or a sweater, or perhaps you have a blanket handy. We're going to move toward final resting pose, Shavasana, the Sanskrit for corpse pose. So we're supine on the back, legs stretched out in front of you. Let the feet splay outward, arms alongside the body, palms face upward here. Again, just to minimize all of that external stimulus that the finger pads might have from being turned down. If you notice the head is collapsing backwards, perhaps lengthen the back of the neck by drawing your chin slightly toward the chest, and you elongate the back of the neck and rest back on the occipital ridge. Allowing the eyes to close, bring the awareness inward. Scan through the body and see if there's any area that you might be holding some tightness or tension. Is there any place where you're gripping or clenching to any degree? Whether physical or in the mind. See if you can allow a greater sense of ease and rest and relaxation. A softening. Really be aware of the weight of your body, the heaviness of your body sinking down into the ground. Feel like your bones are like anvils, lead weights.
Many traditions refer to this as the most important pose of a physical yoga practice. It's the time for integration. Much like if we go too long without sleep, we are exhausted. We need that opportunity for integration and refreshing. The same with a weekend at the end of a busy week or vacation during a busy year. Shavasana is so crucial to allow the absorption of what you've experienced. As you gently begin to lengthen the breath, and just start inviting some soft and slow, gentle movement in the body. Maybe wiggle the fingers and toes. Maybe you start rotating the wrists and ankles. Just bringing some vitality back to the floor. Now hugging the knees in toward the chest, either remaining stationary or softly rocking side to side. As we all transition toward our right hand side in a fetal position, stretching up the upper leg, pressing into the upper arm to slowly bring yourself up to a seated position to close our practice. So again, finding a comfortable seat. Once more, I'll invite you to bring your hands to Anjali Mudra at heart center, thumbs toward the sternum, gently pressing the palms together. If it feels appropriate for you, a gentle bowing of the chin to the chest. At times it can feel a struggle to find things to be grateful for when there is worry and concern. And yet there is always much to be grateful for. Things as simple as having a roof over our heads, having food to eat. May your heart feel full with gratitude for the blessings we have even now. May your heart feel full with love, compassion, and may you shine this forward to all you encounter. The light in me acknowledges and bows to the light in you. In my lineage of Amrit Yoga, we close the practice with the words Jai Bhagwan, meaning may the spirit be victorious. And so I say to you, Jai Bhagwan. Thank you for joining. Keep safe, be well. Keep bringing the awareness back to the breath. I look forward to seeing you all again sometime soon. Bye for now.